I extended the hand. It was a fun game. But man, when things wanted to go wrong, they just went wrong.
There were several big points. The losing 6 of the bulls, the couple of misfires on the scrap launcher, especially when it went careening into those last few lead belchers, were all pretty decisive. I mean, there were some really great rolls too, like the ones where we wiped out the shades. The overall, in the big screen pictures, it wasn't as big a swing as those negative ones, but still satisfying to say, all right, 30 shots, boom, you're gone.
Yeah. I think the biggest problem with this entire game was the fact that I had to come on piecemeal because I had the 2 units missing from the table, and they happened to be my key units. Had it been the Yetis or even the scrap launcher, I would have been plenty happy with that. But unfortunately, it was my big hitty close combat unit who I wanted to be advancing 12 inches first turn, and then my lead belchers who also needed to advance pretty far in the first turn to get into range.
If they were part of your main battle line and they were running up and dishing out that kind of pain on my witches and blackguard, that would have made a big mess of things. So, are the Ogres the underdog in this? They still are, certainly, because the Dark Elves were a top 3 army list, and they haven't really lost anything in this edition. Stuff the Ogres have gained, though, are the attacks from the back ranks, which you get to see the Iron Guns used on the Hydra, the Lead Belchers shooting in 2 ranks, which is really big. Before people might just take little groups of 2, now you're fighting groups of 6, and all of a sudden, hey, they're effective. Trappers, they're the same kind of bonus as skirmishers do now, so they're pretty much the same. But there are elements that give the Ogres a big boost from where they were.
Yeah, unfortunately, I lack the ability in 2,000 points to take Slaughtermaster. It's just not really possible unless I take really bare bones characters.
What's the points on a Slaughtermaster?
Slaughtermaster is base 200, and a Tyrant, I believe, is base 200 as well. So if you want to take any upgrades, which obviously I want to do, my Tyrant rings in at, I think, 316 points.
Well, what about something like, if you're, instead of going level a Butcher, Tyrant, and a Bruiser, kind of swap that and go with the Slaughtermaster and then just another Bruiser?
That's what I would love to do, and everybody would love to do that, but unfortunately it's a 6th edition book, and you're not allowed to run the Tyrant without a Slaughtermaster.
Oh, another thing missed.
The other way around. You can't take the Slaughtermaster without the Tyrant.
Another thing missed by the FAQ.
Yeah, it's not an FAQ's place to be an update for a rule book, except for the fact that they did so much work adding an errata to things like Steam Tank, which didn't need it.
Except for the Steam Tank, which they did completely change from the book, and the Cauldron of Blood, which they did completely change from the book.
If they spent that kind of time on stuff that didn't need an update,
To be fair and give them a little bit of credit, after the book, 8th edition book came out within a week or 2, there was a FAQ done for the main book and for the army books. So they were a little bit on the ball about that. There's still room for some more. Don't know when we'll see it, but...
Yeah, the only thing I'd like to see is, these rewritten units. Let's get some more rewritten units.
Clearly. If you're going to change the stat line of something like the Steam Tank completely, you can take something like the Hydra and say, hey, you're now worth 250 points.
Yeah.
Or all those Beastmen monsters are now worth 225 or something.
Well, I don't think it'd be in their best interest to make anything worse than it is, but certainly to make things better than they are is always in their interest because that sells models.
Exactly. No one's losing anything by doing that.
Right. And it makes everybody happy because at the end of the day, as a Dark Elf player, you don't care if Ogres get a nastier hero option or if their Scrap Launcher suddenly does Thunderstomp, which I was really surprised to find out it doesn't do Thunderstomp. Yeah.
Because it's classified as a chariot?
It is still a chariot, even though it's a giant monster.
Right.
But, oh well. This game I didn't play particularly well. I think in retrospect there were a lot of things I could have done to be more aggressive with my combat units and be a little more cagey with my support elements. But it was a fun game, and I'm still learning how to use the Ogres. Next time I'm hoping won't be such an easy match. At 2400, it's a much stronger army because you have, like I said, that the points for that Slaughtermaster, who's pretty huge, and you also have enough points left over for a big rank tutor to Noblars, who actually wouldn't have been terrible in this matchup. 50 Noblars goes a long way.
Oh, yeah.
When they're rerollable steadfast on a 9.
1 unit of 50?
Yeah, 1 unit
Nice.
of 50. Yeah, it's a big unit. The shooting's pretty cool on it too if it gets
That's right.
if it gets to the right target.
As some people who are viewing this may have heard of the legendary 1001 Noblar army list, which was at the Crossroads last year, where the entire army literally filled the entire 12-inch by 6-foot deployment zone. And as people found out, anyone who landed on a hill near those units started eating about 100 sharp shots.
Yeah. Yeah, they need 6 to hit and 6 to wound, but they'll still do it
Still.
when you're
I
rolling
got a
on the
bucket.
dice. So, are there any changes that you would have made to your list? I feel like your list performed pretty well and did what it was supposed to.
Yeah, I really can't complain about how the list performed. This was a fairly close combat-oriented list with not a ton of shooting. So one of my concerns might be how much damage am I going to take to my relatively small melee blocks before I do get them stuck in. The plus side to it is that 3 out of the 4 blocks are immune to psychology, at least until they lose frenzy, and the spearman block is going to be less of a target to most people, and will have a lead 9 character in it helping it make a panic test. So I would test it out more games before I change anything, but overall I like it. I like the Harpies flying around and still doing their Harpy thing. The Dark Riders, being Cav, can jump on war machines, shoot around, be annoying still. And really pleased with everybody else. Like the Frenzy and the boosted attacks on the Corsairs make them worth taking in my opinion. Spears for cheap combat res. And the Witch Elves are quite a good unit, I find, of high initiative 6, and poison attacks. So those are what I'm using, counting on to bring down bigger monsters or high toughness things.
Yeah, poison's huge. I really like playing with poison. This army actually felt like all the old Dark Elf armies I'm used to playing against, and it played pretty much the same way it did back in 7th.
Yep.
A lot of redirection, a lot of harassment, and then just rock hard infantry. It was a really tough match, and I don't know. I don't think I would change my list. I like the way my list is working. I like my magic item combinations. My deployment wasn't stellar, and like I said, 2,000 points is pretty hard with this list, but I'm going to stick with it, and in the next report that I play with these guys, they'll be up to their 2,400 if I can get 50 Noblars painted.
That's the tough part.
Yeah, I'm using more Numidians, the Javelin Skirmishers, and I've got some Bowmen in there, and Swordsmen, just all different weapons, so they look kind of mixed up.
The deployment thing really hurt you here too. Losing those 2 main infantry line units meant that instead of having those groups to support you there, you had to put all your characters into that one unit, which makes it more inviting on my end to throw the big Pit of Shade spells at it, or Purple Sun if I was running Death on the Dark Elves.
Yeah.
But in that case, had you had those groups there, that's more targets. So if even one gets pummeled by something, you're going to maybe lose the 1 character, and you get 2 other ones that are still fine.
Yeah. Well, this was a fun game. It was good to have you, Chris. And this week, the golden miniature goes to Chris. I painted up a golden, I think it's a 6th edition plastic clan wrap. Yeah, so
Maybe he'll see his way into my list for the Crossroads.
Yeah, that'd be cool. I'm gonna have 1 golden horror there, and Paul Gates and I are gonna be team bragging rights at the tournament for the doubles side event that's going on, and we're gonna be giving away. Actually, hopefully we're not gonna be giving away golden.
No. Think positive.
Yeah, but
you'll be receiving some fine golden miniatures from Matt Burdoff and Kevin Coleman.
Oh, I hope so. I have a golden halfling to give Kevin Coleman, and I hadn't painted one up for Burdoff yet. I think I'm going to go with a Chaos Dwarf, or possibly a, I think it's 5th edition plastic Chaos Warrior that I have in my other place. So, thanks for listening, and next week's episode is going to be against Keith, and I'm going to be playing my 2,400 point Crossroads GT list, and we're going to talk a little more about the Crossroads GT then. Stick around if you want to hear a little bit about comp.